on self-therapy, internal family systems. We're going to be doing chapter 18 through 20 today, because 19 is like half a page long. Okay. Chapter 18 is integration and unburdening protectors. Once you have unburdened an exile, it is important to integrate this work with the rest of your internal system, especially those protectors that have been protecting against this exile's feelings. They may or may not already be aware of the work that has been done. Checking with protectors. Check with each protector to see if it has been aware of the work you have done with the exile. You may want to introduce one or more protectors to the transformed exile. If a protector is no longer easily accessible, ask it to come forward. See how the protector feels about the work that has been done. Check to see if the protector now realizes that its protective role is no longer necessary. Protector concerns about giving up its role. The protector may still be protecting other exiles and may therefore still need to maintain its role in some way. Response. In this case, you must unburden the other exiles before the protector will completely let go of its role. You can check to see if there are some changes it can make because of the shift with the current exile. If so, assist it in clarifying those changes. The protector may not be ready to let go of its role. Response. Ask the protector, what are you afraid would happen if you give up your role or stopped doing your job? This may uncover other exiles or protectors it is polarized with or other fears it has. You can work with these parts from self. The protector may be afraid that the change won't last. Response. Let it know that you, self, will be there to take care of that if necessary. Unburdening protectors. Protectors have burdens too, though they are not the same as an exile's. An exile's burden is pain, whereas a protector's burden is its protective role. That role is not natural to the protector. It was taken on because the protector perceived a great danger to you. Once that danger is no longer there, the burden of this protective role can be released. Sometimes this realization causes a spontaneous unburdening in the protector. It feels free to take on a new role and can easily identify who it wants to become. Sometimes a protector wants to go through an unburdening process. In this case, the burden in the protective is the protective role itself. The protector took on its extreme role at a specific time in your life. It holds this history in the form of memories, beliefs, confusions, and identifications. To release the protector from its role, you can help it go through the same process used to unburden an exile. In some cases, it may be necessary to access the childhood memories from the time when the protector took on its extreme role. These may or may not be the same as those of the exile. The protector's childhood memories need to be witnessed by self before the burden can be released. New qualities. As with the exile, after the protector's burden is released, positive qualities may spontaneously arise. It might be a feeling of I want to feel capable, strong, free, compassionate, and so on. You can ask the protector what qualities would you like to take and that would be helpful to you in the future. Give the protector time to take in one quality at a time, moving gently with the breath while allowing each quality be assimilated. New role. Whether or not the protector does an unburdening ritual, let it know that it can choose a new role in your psyche. This is especially important for a protector. Its role may be a non-extreme version of the role it had, the opposite of its previous role, or something entirely different. It may want to establish a new relationship with the exile. If its new role involves any other parts, check with them to see how they feel about the change. Check with other parts. Once the work with the protector and exile is complete, ask if there are any parts that have feelings or concerns about the work you have done and the changes that have happened. For example, if the work brought love, spontaneity, or strength into the system, there may be parts that are threatened by that. You can reassure them about their fears or plan to work with them next. Sometimes doubting parts come up that do not trust the work that was done or are afraid it won't last. These parts need to be heard and accepted. They may need something from you or from one of the other parts, or they may be invited to watch what happens over time. Testing. After all this work, it is a good idea to test the results against the original trailhead that activated the protector. For example, if the original protector was a part that tried to please authority figures, it would be useful to imagine yourself in a situation with an authority figure in your current life and then notice what parts, if any, get activated. This will give you an idea of whether the exile and protector have been truly unburdened and whether any other parts may also be reacting to this situation. Testing prepares you for facing the real life situation and lets you know what further work you need to do. Follow up. It's a good idea to check in periodically with the parts that have been unburdened, especially exiles, to see how they are. As you complete the work with a part, it may want to be sure that you will follow up with it. It may want regular contact or may want to be allowed playtime. You might ask the part what it would like and then plan how to make good on your promises. Exercise. Releasing a protector. We are now going to work with a protector that has been connected to an unburdened exile. Begin this process at the point at which you can go back and focus on a protector whose exile has been unburdened. Take a moment to activate self-energy. You might try sitting up straight, putting your hand over your heart, taking a deep breath, and chanting a sound. Is a good sound that vibrates the heart. Or various vowel sounds have been found to vibrate different energy centers. You can experiment and see what brings you into your center today. When you feel present in self, focus your attention on the protector. What is your sense of it in this moment? Has it changed much since you started working with it? Make sure that it knows who you are. You can ask it, have you been watching what has been happening with the exile that you were protecting? Does it seem as though your role has changed? Would you also like to be unburdened? Fill in below your experience of releasing a protector. So you list the protector's role, the exile's burden. Is the protector now ready to let go of its role? If not, why not? It's protecting other exiles. It's afraid to let go of its role. It's afraid the change won't last. Another concern. How do you help the protector with its concerns so that it feels more comfortable with the unburdening process? When you unburden the protector, what does it want to release its burden to? What qualities that the protector wanted to take in would be most helpful in the future? What new role, if any, would it like to play? Are there any parts that are uncomfortable with these changes? What are their concerns? What did you reassure them? When you go back to the original situation and imagine yourself there, again, what do you feel? Were any parts triggered? Does any future work need to be done? So here is a sample of releasing a protector. Protector 1, angry defender. Protector's role, keep the little girl from being hurt and rejected again by pushing people away. Exile's burden, rejection by childhood friends and a teacher. Is the protector now ready to let go of its role? Yes, wants to go and play with me, with the little girl and self. Does not feel the need to unburden. Protector 2, inner critic. Protector's role, keep the little girl safe by criticizing her so she wouldn't take any chances with people. Is the protector now ready to let go of its role? No. If not, why not? It's afraid to let go of its role, doesn't know what it would do if it didn't criticize her to protect her. How do you help the protector with its concerns so that it feels more comfortable with the unburdening process? I told her that she could take on a new role when she let go of the old one. When you unburden the protector, what does it want to release its burdens to? Fire. What qualities that the protector would like to take in would be most helpful in the future? Generosity, being carefree, peacefulness. What new role, if any, would it like to play? Support the little girl to become her best self. Are there any parts that are comfortable with these changes? No. That are uncomfortable with these changes? No. When you go back to the original situation and imagine yourself there again, what do you feel? I imagine going through the school experience with a best friend, and I see what a difference it would have made in my ability to maintain satisfying adult relationships. Okay, so exercise. Follow up with a protector. Choose a protector that has released its protective role. You will be checking in with it during the week whenever it could be triggered. Preparation. To help yourself be aware at those times, answer the following questions. What kinds of situations or people tend to activate this protector? When are these likely to occur during the next week? What body sensations, thoughts, behavior, or emotions will let you know this protector is triggered? Homework practice. In those situations in which the protector is usually triggered, notice whether or not it becomes activated. If it doesn't become activated, notice how you feel and act that it is different from before. So there's a little chart. You list the date, situation, thoughts, bodily experience, feelings, and behavior. Appreciate the changes that you have made. How do you want to celebrate your success? If the protector does become activated, check in to see what triggered it and what it's afraid of. Keep track of so you know what additional work is needed in a future session to complete the transformation of this protector. All right, we are on chapter 19, ending a session. Whenever you are ending a session, it's a good idea to respectfully connect with all the parts you have worked with thus far. Thank the target part for making itself known to you. If you are in the process of working with it, let it know that you will come back to it. Reaffirm any agreements you have made with it during your work. If you have completed your work with it, check in and see how it's doing. If you've worked with a protector and it has given you permission to work with an exile, thank the protector and see how it feels about the work you've done with the exile. Thank any concerned parts for stepping aside to allow you to do the work. Check with them about whether they've seen the work that you did and how it has affected them. See if any other parts need to say anything before you stop. Acknowledge them and spend some time addressing their concerns. All right, last chapter, chapter 20, working with a partner. The importance of partner work. To get the most out of this workbook, you need to practice IFS on a regular basis. Each chapter outlines a basic idea with exercises that bring home the concepts, making them relevant to your psyche and your life. For most people, it works best to do these with a partner. The two of you take turns working on yourselves with the other as witness and facilitator. It isn't easy to open up deep places of pain in yourself, even with the powerful and respectful IFS method. When someone is there to witness you, it makes the whole exploration more inviting by providing a holding environment for your wounded and defended parts. Even a silent witness provides presence and support that is very helpful for most people. What partner work could look like. Before you begin your explorations, have a discussion with your partner about the kind of facilitation you would like when you're working. If you're new to this process, we recommend that at the beginning of your work together, you act as a quiet witness. Gradually, as you become more comfortable with the IFS process and perhaps also with the partner relationship, you can move to more active witnessing and finally to gentle facilitation. The explorer. When you are the explorer, you are in charge of the session and are responsible for what happens. This is different from being in psychotherapy, where the therapist has more responsibility for the work. When you are working with a friend in peer counseling, he or she can be helpful to you, but may not know any more about IFS and therapy than you do. Therefore, he or she can take responsibility for what happens in the session the way a therapist would. It is up to you to conduct the session in a way that works for you. It is your job to judge how fast or slow to take the process and how deeply to explore certain issues. You are in charge of keeping track of what's happening in the session and where you are in the IFS procedure. You are responsible for choosing what parts of yourself to explore and how far to go into painful or vulnerable places in your psyche. Although the listener has an important role to play, it is your show. Listener possibilities. Stage 1, quiet witness. Your job is to stay in self as much as possible. Before you begin, take some time to center and ground, feel yourself supported by the chair you're in, follow your breath for a while, and ask any parts that are active to give you some space to be present. While your partner is exploring, do not speak unless he or she asks for your help. This helps cement the idea that the explorer is in charge and responsible for the session. It helps the explorer learn how to work on him or herself, and it encourages you to be free of any sense of responsibility for what happens. You will have an opportunity to give the explorer feedback after each session. As your partner is exploring, you can note for yourself what parts come up for you. Gently acknowledge each part and ask it to give you some space to be fully present with your partner. Stage 2, active witnessing. When you are an active witness, you may offer gentle suggestions at appropriate moments during a pause or when it seems as if your partner is at an impasse. It is up to the explorer to decide whether or not to take your suggestions. Remember that if your partner gets stuck or lost, it is his or her job to figure out how to proceed. This is part of the explorer's process. He or she might be confused for a while and have to work it through. You can help in any way that seems right, but you aren't obligated to fix the explorer, remove any pain, or get him or her out of a corner. The active witness checks to see if a suggestion at this time might be helpful, makes observations, or with permission expresses curiosity of something that is going on in the work. Don't find solutions or give advice. Support the process and trust its unfolding. Stage 3, facilitation. When both you and your partner feel ready, discuss the possibility of you more actively facilitating his or her exploration. Take this individually and move at your own pace. One of you might be ready for this before the other. Moving into this slowly gives you the leeway to become comfortable with the process before you take an active role. You will gradually learn to be helpful without having the burden of knowing what to say thrust on you too soon. Remember that your presence and full attention are very helpful to the explorer's process, even if you don't say a word. Facilitation possibilities. Here are some possibilities for facilitating your partner to explore him or herself. It can be useful to follow along with help sheets and keep track of which step the explorer is on. Take notes on the parts that have come up and been related to can often be helpful. Reflect back what the person or part is feeling. Mention when you think a concerned part is getting in the way and the explorer doesn't realize it. Mention when you think the person is blended with the target part and doesn't realize it. Suggest questions to ask a part. Some effective phrasing is you might ask the part, this leaves the person room to not take your suggestion. Suggest which step the person might do next. This can be in the form of a question to ask the part, as in the previous item, or it could be done by mentioning the step explicitly. For example, maybe it is time for reparenting now. Point out when you think a part is in exile or protector, when that may influence what happens next. For example, shouldn't you get to know that protector before working with the exile? Point out when it looks as though the person has switched to a new part without realizing it. Keep track of the original target part when the explorer is working with some concerned parts so you can help your partner refocus when appropriate. Keep track of concerned parts and protectors that have stepped aside so they can be checked in with and thanked at the end of the session. Remember that the person working is in charge of the session. You don't have to do the above facilitations. Only say something when it feels to you as if it will be helpful. Explore. Remember that you are in charge of the session. Don't feel that you have to take your partner's suggestions. Feedback. When working with a partner after the explorer has finished working, it can be helpful for the partner to offer feedback about the work. Don't give feedback only on the content of what the explorer worked on. Focus especially on the IFS process. People can feel quite vulnerable when they have been doing this kind of exploration. So it is important to give feedback that is sensitive and supportive. Before you and your partner begin working together, it is important to have a conversation about feedback preferences. Each of you has a right to ask for or to limit feedback. The type of feedback does not have to be the same for both of you. Here are some possibilities. You can talk about any personal responses you had to the explorer's work as long as the responses aren't negative or likely to be hurtful. It is best to do this by talking about parts of you that you noticed were activated. You can say how moved you were by the work or any other positive responses. You can mention ways that you have similar issues to what the explorer was working on. Be considerate when sharing your issues. You want to keep the focus on the explorer as long as he or she needs to process the experience. When it is time to shift the focus, you can have your fuller experience. You can ask the explorer questions that might further his or her understanding of the work. You might note where his or her work piqued your curiosity. You can mention any steps of the IFS process that he or she skipped over. You can mention any parts that you thought were blended with self. You can mention any parts that you thought were activated that the explorer didn't seem to notice. Make sure that your feedback is not given in a judgmental way. If the explorer feels judged by any of the feedback, it is good to say so in order to prevent this from happening in the future. Give the explorer some time to explore whether he or she had parts come up that were reacting to your feedback. This is not a time to give advice. Your role as a listener is to be supportive of the explorer's process and trust that working with parts in an honest way will lead to the clarity he or she needs to live more fully. Ongoing partner relationships. Before you start each session, create an understanding between you about how much facilitation and what type the explorer wants. Do you want to be led through each step and have questions suggested? Do you want to primarily lead yourself and have your partner intervene only when help is needed? This can change from session to session, so check in each time. It is also important to revisit this during the session if it needs to be renegotiated or if something isn't working. If you work with someone regularly, pay attention to anything going on between you that may be getting in the way of your work. Bring it up with your partner and work it through by talking about the feelings that your parts have. The partner relationship can be a fruitful exploration. Make sure to bring any issue out into the open first and let your partner know that you're interested in investigating your parts around it. All right, that is it for today. Have a good one.